Welcome back. Now we are going to see the different tabs at the top of the page, which is Home, Insert, Modeling, View. Help is something which is a general thing which we can see in any other tool. If you want to reach out to Microsoft for help on something, we can go and to try to reach out to them. So Home tab. So the main important thing here is Get Data. So as we already discussed, Get Data is something we use to load data from multiple sources. It can be a single source or multiple sources, but at any point of time we can load data from one single source, then we can keep loading from other sources as well. So for now, just take data from Excel sheet. So earlier, if you go to get data, we can see Excel. Now we have a new option directly for Excel. So we can directly go from here, or if you go from get data to Excel, both are same. So I'm going to just export, trying to import something. You can see import data from Microsoft Excel workbook. So click on Excel and I have few sources. Let me try to export from Excel. Sorry, import from Excel. So here you can see it is trying to establishing connection from the Excel sheet in my desktop, and it is asking like this. So it is not mandatory to use the same Excel or something like that. So please make use of this and start practicing any Excel, whatever is available with you. Just try to take something which is in your desktop and try to see how it looks. So by default, so as I was telling, even though you have something called sheets in Excel, in Power BI terms you call as tables. Now I have financials is a table. I have another sheet one, even though the name is sheet one, but it will be treated as table in Power BI. This is the data preview. So this is the data I have. I can refresh and see the preview of current. This is the data preview. So for any source, if you try to import into Power BI desktop, this will show the preview and you can load. Again, while loading the data, we have two different options. One is load data, one is transform data. For example, let's say we have this data and you feel everything is correct and you don't want to change anything in the data level. In that case, we can directly load the data and we can do reporting. Or if you feel something, okay, I want to change some in the data level, I want to change something, or if you want to transform something in the data level, then we can go on transform data. But we can go from here, let's say, even though, okay, let's say for example, you missed here, you just loaded the data. And if you want to change something, in that case, we can go to transform data here. So while you're loading data, load means just load as it is from the source. Transform data means it will take us to Power Query Editor to do some modifications in the data level. So even though you miss in the first page of loading data, you can go here. So before that, now we can see whenever we click on get data and take something from Excel, it is not supposed to be only Excel. It can be any source. For example, if I take from a SQL server, it will be asking the server name and database name. These we will discuss, but for now, just understand we can import data from multiple sources to Power BI desktop. And for example, if it is Excel or CSV file or text file, it will be asking for the path, where exactly the file is located in the system. If it is a database, it will be asking for database name or connection string or server name, everything. That is the only difference. Or if you try to get data from the web, it will be asking the URL from where you can fetch data. So the source is simple because not everyone will work on all the sources. So I think I worked, I think 6 or 7 sources in my experience in Power BI, not all the sources. So similarly, not everyone will work on all the sources. Technically, we should know what is Power BI desktop, and based on the source which you are using in your company, the source will change, but whatever we are going to learn, that will remain same. Now, once we load data to Power BI, we can see something called field section. So earlier it was very empty and it was just blank here because that time we don't have data. Now we have something data loaded to Power BI from Excel sheet in the name of financials, and we have these are the columns, they are the fields. That is why the name fields here. Now once we take data from Excel, we can also take data from multiple sources based on your requirements. Power BI data sets means, for example, let's say you have done some reporting and you publish the report to Power BI service. Whenever you do publish, okay, before going to that, Now, if you can observe, earlier it was disabled because there was nothing in our at the field section. Now it is enabled because now we have something. Now whenever you hover here, it is showing publish this report online in the Power BI service. It means it is asking us to deploy to Power BI service. So Power BI datasets means whenever you publish a report from Power BI desktop to Power BI service, this two things will happen. What is that is this will publish both dataset and report together into Power BI service, not just the report. So for example, if you take something, the visuals here, and if you drag and drop something, it is going to show something based on whatever we drag here. Let's say I'm dragging month name and profit, for example, and it is showing in the pie chart. Now I can go and change to any other visual. Like again, if I click on table, it will go to table. If I click on donut chart, it will change donut chart. That is, this is just representation. So the data is same. We are just showing profit by country. Whenever you try to click on multiple visuals, that will be transformed accordingly to different visuals. If you publish this to Power BI service, what happens is this will take this visual, which is a report, as well as the data set, underlying data set, to the Power BI service. So once you publish the report to Power BI service, if you want to connect to that sources, that data sets, we can use this option. This we can see in Power BI service. Once we publish the report to Power BI service, then we'll come back here and see how to connect to Power BI dataset and what is the difference between doing from here and there. So just for an idea, I'm just explaining what is Power BI dataset. And SQL Server. This again, because Microsoft owns SQL Server, most of the companies who works on Power BI desktop, I mean the reporting platform, we'll see majority will be SQL Server because this is the Microsoft product, and most of the times will be SQL Server. And yes, of course, Microsoft supports Power BI supports various other data sources as well, but majority we can see SQL Server. Again, it is a newly added option here. So either we can go to get data and take data from, I mean, click on SQL Server from here, or you can click on SQL Server here. It will be asking your connection credentials like your server name and database name. We'll come to this in maybe in next session, how to take data from SQL Server. I'll explain there what is this import direct query, everything. This is enter data. Let's say, for example, you don't have data to load into Power BI. You have some requirement where you need some data. We can do two things. One is, let's say that should be static. Let's say you want to have some static data. For example, let's say in your table, there is something called codes. Let's say the color code. Color code is A, B, C, D. And there is no dimension for that. What is A, what is B, what is C, what is D. And you want to define the dimension. So what we can do is either we can create a new Excel file with the two columns. One is like code or serial number or something. Code and color name. A means this color, B this color, C some other color. And we can load into Power BI. That is first thing we can do. Or you can create a new table in SQL Server or any database and insert these records into the table and pull the data to Power BI. Or the third way is if you have lesser data, because again, if you have more and more amount of data, we cannot go and enter here. If you have very less data and if you want something to be used in your reporting environment, then you can click in a new enter data. You can create a new table just by typing something. So it will be asking like this column name. Let's say, for example, as we discussed, just use color code and color name. I can write something like A, B, or whatever. I'm just giving example. Let's say it is purple. Okay, line color, whatever. And we can name this as a colors. This is the table. So if you want to create a tables in Power BI desktop itself, instead of going back to your data source, creating table and fetching back to Power BI, we can create in the create table section. Again, it is advised for a smaller record. Let's say we have 10, 20 records maximum, we can go with, because everything we have to enter manually. Or if you have already data in Excel, if you don't want to import that Excel sheet, we can just copy the record and paste here. Even that also possible. So if you have the same two columns in your Excel sheet, and we can copy those columns and we can also paste here. If I right click here, if you just control V, once you copy something, we can also paste here. That's also possible. So create table means to create a smaller tables in your reporting for any your requirements, like the example I have told. We can use this. Again, we can load here. This will be a new table. Now we have a second table called colors, which should be loaded apart from financials. Now we can see the same thing here as a colors. Now we have two tables. So we can expand the, this is a table. We can expand to see what fields we have. Fields or columns, both the same. What fields we have, and we can see here. And the next option is recent sources. Let's say if you want to take data from the same source again and again. In that case, we can, instead of going to get data and giving the same server name or database name again and again, just look on recent sources. Now we can see the recent sources is financial sample. This was the Excel report I've just taken. You can just click on that and we can extract the same thing instead of creating a new thing. And transform data, this is very huge topic. We will discuss this in detail, but for now I'll show how this looks, because before we export data to Power BI desktop, it was very empty there. Now we have two tables. So even though if you forget to transform data whenever you're trying to load data in the Power BI desktop, if you want to do some changes in the data level, then the only place we can do in Power BI is go to transform data, click on transform data. Now here it will show the same two tables with the data whatever we have, and these options will be enabled. So we use all these options to make changes in the data level. So we'll go through each and every options in detail once we have covered all the other options. So for now, just click on close and apply. This will be, we'll just come back to the original screen and refresh. Okay, before that, let me show you one more option, data source settings. Now we have data from Excel as well as the newly created table. If you click on data source settings, you see this is the one. In this existing Power BI file, this is the source I have. So I've taken this from my desktop, which is called financial sample. Let's say if you want to change the source, maybe the same file I have in different path as well, or maybe the file which I'm currently using is outdated. Let's say there is some other file which has latest data with the same fields. In that case, we can go on change the source. Same thing, how we can browse and take the new source. Let's click on browse, and we can go to some other path. We can take, that is the data source settings. Because it is a file, it is asking us to change the path of a file. That's only we can do. If it is a SQL server or some other database, it will be asking us to change the server name, database name, or credentials which we have used to load data, everything, because it differs from source to source. So as per Excel, it will be the data source settings means changing the path of a source. And also we have something called edit permissions, like how whether you want to create any privacy permissions for this file. Anyone can use this, or in your organization only someone, only from the organization someone has to load this, able to access this, specific like that. We can use privacy level, but usually privacy level will be none most of the times. We don't go and change often, or in some cases we go to organization, because this is something we're working in an organization. We just set this to organization level. So whoever log in with their credentials, they can able to access this, and this will be a set privacy only for the work. Who is working in the organization. This is clear permissions. We can just clear the permissions what we have just set. It will be none again because we have just cleared everything. And the same thing, global permissions. Global permissions means it will show all the sources. We can see here data sources in current file, global permissions. It means this will show only the sources that is existing in the current Power BI file. This will be shown other sources as well, which was used in the other Power BI files. So here, if you want to change again, we can again same go to edit permissions and do the changes. Anyway, we'll discuss these things once we are discussing about SQL Server sources. Database sources. I will again visit here and see how these permissions will look for them. Next option we have is refresh. This will be used only for our developer perspective. For example, now I am doing the report based on this financials Excel sheet. Let's say that the source has been updated. Let's say I have added some new column and added some new data, or let's say I have 10. Let's say, for example, here we have many rows. Data is very huge. Let's say, for example, we have 100 rows. and I have added 101 row, like 101 row. Until and unless I refresh the data here, we cannot see in the data level, in the report level, because the time whenever I import data to Power BI, there were just 100 records or just 10 records, for example. If I add something 11th record in the data source, Power BI doesn't know whether the data has been updated in the sources or not. That is why we have to keep clicking on refresh. What refresh will do is refresh will go back to the same source, and it will fetch the latest data at that point of time. Again, now let's say we have 11th record also in place. Now if I add 10 more records, it will be 21 records. Again, this will not be shown unless we refresh. This refresh will be only for the developer's perspective. If you want to see some changes in the report level based on the data updated in the backend, we can keep clicking refresh. But once we publish the report to Power BI service, there we cannot do manually refresh. So that is why we have something called gateways in place. With the help of gateways in Power BI service, we are going to refresh the data of the report. So that is very, one of the very important topics in Power BI service that we will see in Power BI service. So for now, this refresh is something for developer. If you want to see some changes in the report level, we can use this. In the Power BI service, we don't do refresh manually. We have an option to do report refresh manually, but we usually prefer doing with gateways. We call Power BI gateways. We will discuss at that time. And new visual, again, same thing. If you want to add some new visual in this reporting pane, we can click on this one. By default, this will be visible. This will be the stacked column chart, or this is not required. Whichever visual you want, click on that. That will be visible here. So that is again up to the developer. They can click on this and change according to whichever they want, or just click on the visual whatever they want, and they can just drag and drop here into the visual to see the data. And text box, this is something we use in general to add some static text. For example, mainly for the headers, if usually the report consists of headers, like what is the report mean, the title of the report. In that case, we use this text box, and we can just type whatever the report name. I'm just giving a sample report. And again, for every visual we're going to discuss in future, everything has formatting options. Formatting is very important for the reporting, because at the end of the day, that will be the one which decides the look and feel of the report. So that is why the formatting is for every visual. It can be a text box or this donut chart. If you click on any of the visual, we have three options here. One is the field section, because once we drag and drop something, it will be in the field section. This is the formatting option. This is called format pane. This is the fields pane. This is the analytics pane. This will not be enabled for all the visuals. We have only few visuals. This will be enabled. We will discuss also this one. What are these in detail once we discuss the visuals one by one. So for now, just understand, to do a simple reporting, just click on the visual here. It will come. It will be on the report pane. And based on the data whatever we have loaded to Power BI desktop, just hold this and drag onto this. Or there are three different ways. Hold and drag here. The second way is hold and drag here. The third way is make sure you clicked on the visual and just check the box. So three ways we can do. Drag into the visual, drag into the legend, the properties of the visual, because this also not similar to all the visuals. Based on the different visuals, these options will change. For example, for the table, we have just values, because it's a table. We have rows and columns. For pie chart, again, we have legends, details, and values, tooltips. We have four different options. So each visual has its own properties. Each visual has its own formatting options. But most of the visuals have same formatting options, but the properties will change, because each visual behaves in its different way, in its own way. That's why, based on whatever we're displaying, these will be keep changing based on the visuals. And like this, we can take new visual from here or from here. And similarly, more visuals means, I was telling, we can import some new visuals called custom visuals into Power BI desktop. Apart from these things, if you want to import something new, so as I told earlier, we can go from here, from app source, or from the three ellipses, we can go from import from app source, or go to file, import, from app source. Any three ways, all these three ways are same. From anywhere you can import the visuals to Power BI. So I'll just show the example how this looks. Let's say click on this three dots, import from app source. And for example, if you're not signed in at this point of time, it will be asking for sign in, because it is must to be signed in Power BI service to import these visuals. Let's say I want to import bullet chart. So this will be mainly used to track the goals. Like say we have actuals and targets. I want to achieve 100% target, but how much I have achieved, like 60%, 70%. So for those reports, for those kind of visuals, this is the one of the representation bullet chart. Like this, it will be added here. Let's say if you want to delete this visual, we can also do that. If you click on the same three dots, three ellipses, click on remove visual, it will be asking, because we have only one now, it will display only one. Let's say if you imported 5 to 6 custom visuals, it will list everything here. So now you can select Control A, you can just select multiple visuals at the same time and click on remove. This also we can do. But one thing we have to be aware, if this visual was used already in the report with some other data, and if you're displaying something, if you remove this, everything will be lost. That's why it is good to be aware that if you remove something from these visuals, everything will be lost in the reporting. And new measure, quick measure, publish. Publish, we know that it is at the end of the report development. If we want to publish the report to Power BI service, we use this option. Quick measures means is a calculation, DAX expressions. So in Power BI, mainly we have two different expressions. One is, both will be done using DAX. One is called calculated columns, other one is called measures. Calculated columns means derived expressions. Let's say I have 10 different columns in my table. I want to derive some new column out of the existing columns. It means to derive something out of the existing ones using the DAX expression. That is called calculated columns. Measures means your summarizations. Like if you want to do some calculations out of the existing data, which is like usually mostly on numerical data, we use measures. So we'll discuss what are measures and what are calculated columns and why this can be used, everything in detail. So for now, just be familiar with these options. What is the home and what are these options? And please practice this. Just try to just try to import data to Power BI with some sample Excel file, and just make sure, okay, these are the tabs we have in Power BI and the fields. Just make sure you're familiar with the tool. Next sessions we are going to discuss about insert modeling view. After that, we'll go to the actual thing like data modeling and all. So before concluding, let me explain also what are these three tabs. You can see this is the report tab. So whenever you hover on this, we can see the name called report. This is a label. This is data tab. This is model tab. So whatever we import to Power BI, that will be seen here, data. So now currently we have two different I don't know why it is not okay. We have two different tables. This is the data for this financials Excel sheet. This is the data we have. Similarly, the colors. This is what we have entered earlier, like color code and color name. So if you want to see the underlying data of a source, we go with the data tab. We see here. For doing the reporting, we come here and drag the visuals and drag the fields here and do reporting. And third tab is model tab. This is called data modeling, we call. So still we are in the initial stages of Power BI. That's why we're not going into deep into this. So going forward, we'll see what is this in detail, and we'll take more tables from a source, and we'll create relationship between the multiple tables, and we'll explain what is this and why this is very important for reporting. Any reporting, it's not just Power BI. Any reporting, data modeling is very important, because based on the relationships we just kept between the tables, the report will work accordingly. So report tab, data tab, and model tab. We do data modeling here. We just see the data what we have imported to Power BI here, and based on the data what we imported to Power BI, we just do reporting in this option. These are three different tabs. So that's all I have. Please practice. We'll go to next options in the coming sessions. Thank you so much, guys.